Hey, everybody. On this episode, we have a special guest, Mr. Ricky Wysocki, on the show. He's going to help us answer some questions. Let's hop right into it. Hey, everybody. This is Bobby Cool Daddy Slick Breeze.
Every time he says cool, it gets longer. It's
Right.
like, cool.
It's gonna be like a soccer goal.
Yeah. Goal. That's going to be you at some point.
Of course, we have, like I said at the beginning, we have Ricky. Just got a new touring van, Wysocki.
What up, Rick?
And Robert Jimmy Johns McCall.
Yeah, did not just get a new touring van.
No, but he did eat a nice sandwich
I
from
did
Jimmy
have a
John's.
nice sandwich.
You
Absolutely.
toured to Jimmy John's, got a sandwich?
Right.
Nice.
That's right.
So if you follow Ricky Wysocki on Instagram or Facebook, you'll know that he just got a brand new touring van. How are you liking it, Ricky?
It's awesome. It's like luxury for me. Being on the road, that's what I need and want to feel most comfortable.
Absolutely.
Going from a Scion to the van that I've got, Nissan NV 2500. It's like a cargo van without the seats. It's got a nice high roof, and I've really decked it out with a lot of shelving and a lot of that kind of stuff for discs, products, and just stuff, even personal products that I need down the road. Extra discs, more discs, towels, umbrellas, all the different variables that hit us on the road. And that way I can feel comfortable with pretty much any situation. Awesome. So, yeah, it's just a nice feeling to be able to kind of spread my stuff out and really have a lot of room to not feel so claustrophobic.
Sure.
Right. Well, because before I remember in your Scion, you had, boxes because you still needed to have products, but it was just like packed in, it was Tetris in there. It had to be super duper tight.
Yeah. And that always sucks because you got to get to something on the bottom and you're like trying to pull out boxes, umbrellas, bags, and all kinds of stuff just to get to a hat or something.
Right.
That's
Pretty
smushed.
rough.
Yeah.
Now,
did you build in a bed in this, by the way?
No, I've got like a little mat. So my thinking is, I have a lot of places to stay throughout the country. So I made friends. And so my thinking is if I'm going on a, say, 15, 20 hour drive, I'll drive 10 hours. Sleep for a couple hours and take the extra 10 hours. Yeah. So I just have a kind of like a sleeping mat in the middle between all my shelving and stuff to where I can lay and sleep for, some couple hours if I need it. So it's not the type of van where I'm going to sleep for, a week straight.
Yeah, days at a time.
If I'm, every, once or twice a month, if I'm going to sleep in there for a day, I can do it.
and it's got a sweet wrap job. It's got, of course, the Latitude 64 logo, the Sake Bomb logo, and then a sweet profile. Well, hello, there goes my microphone.
Later.
Way over there next week. No, I think it's a drive, right? You're like right after a drive, so you've got the the spread eagle form going on in there. So it looks really cool. So you will definitely
Is that what we call that? Is that what we call that form now?
When I take pictures of people, that's the last few photos of
Eric
my
Oakley spread.
sequence.
Yeah.
You got the good one.
It's called the spread eagle.
That just reminds me of Scrubs, man. Did you watch Scrubs ever?
Did I watch Scrubs?
Eagle. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
So anyway, so you will not miss it. Make sure you look for the new touring van out on the tour while Ricky's out there. Oh, I did want to. You said it was pretty. Can you literally stand straight up in it?
Yes, I can. It's
Really?
really tall. It's like, I think it's my clearance. I just tried to go through Starbucks the other day. It was like 8'6", and I didn't make it. So I'm thinking it's like probably right around 9 foot clearance.
Wow, I didn't think it was that tall.
Mm-hmm. The top is really tall.
Is that why you got that year model, whatever? Because of the height you needed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was tall, so I can build up instead. It's not as much room long ways,
Right.
which is cool for driving. So
I gotcha.
So I can build it up with a lot of shelves. That's what I did.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Ricky, thanks for taking the time to stop by and be on the Disc Golf Answer Man show.
Of course.
Eric McCabe is out on assignment doing some course design in California.
That's what I heard.
How sad. I bet the weather is exactly
Right?
like this here.
Yeah, sure, it's raining and
45
Cold and rainy.
Yeah.
Not cool.
Yeah, so he's having a good time out in California. Follow Eric on Instagram, Eric_McCabe, I believe it is.
I think he's Ralph McCabe on. Oh, no. That's Snapchat. Yeah.
But
that's right.
on Instagram, follow him because as he does this travel, he likes to post pictures and stuff like that of course design. So follow that.
And sometimes he'll hide an EMAC truth on the course, and if you're in the area, you can come and find it.
Absolutely. So we wish him the best as he's out designing courses. Let's see. Robert McCall has been busy this week with all the team players here.
We've had several touring players come in this week. Eric Oakley and Tina Stenitis came in earlier last week. And then Paige Pierce got in. I guess she got in on Friday. And then we've just had Ricky join us. I guess he got in yesterday, so on Monday. And I think AJ Risley is supposed to be swinging through pretty soon too. So
cool.
My schedule's been a little bit different than normal, but it's been great. Like that's what we love to do is just hang out with the touring players and make sure they have what they need and all that stuff. So it's been good to see all of them for sure.
Excellent. All right, well, we want to get through as many questions as we can on this episode. So what do you guys say?
Let's do it.
Questions?
Dude.
Let's go.
right, first one comes from Tony. Hi, disc golf fans, your man. Looking at the Memorial, a 4-day-long tournament. I was wondering what would be the best method for a player to recover after the day's round to sustain optimal performance throughout the tournament. What kind of food to eat, any exercise to treat muscle fatigue and mental side of things?
That's a great question. So for me, a lot of I guess I'll kind of start with preparation before an event. So for me, because that kind of applies to what happens after and around during an event. So for an event, for me, for a long tournament like that, I like to get a lot of my practice in beforehand. Like, as a lot of players, not everyone knows, but I like to go 3-4 days ahead of time. Most events, Memorial, I had a luxury. I was able to play a lot more because I was staying there in the off season. But at a typical event, I'll go there 3-4 days ahead of time and play 2, maybe even 3 rounds a day for leading up to like 2 or 3 days before the event. And then the day before, I'll just play 1 round and do some light putting and stuff. And so what that does is that actually let your intensity is a lot higher for the days beforehand. And then when you go to play for the 1 round a day, it feels a lot easier. And instead of playing, like I was saying, 2 or 3 rounds of practice. And within those 2 or 3 rounds, I'm playing 2 or 3 drives, 2 or 3 up shots, just to get the distances dialed in, to get my muscle memory going on for each shot and how it feels to throw in certain winds. And it's hopefully different days, it's different winds, so you can practice all the different winds and different situations. So a lot of my preparation that actually applies to the tournament days actually comes beforehand, and that way 1 round a day doesn't feel like much. But after an event leading up, after say day 1 or day 2, I like to take it easy. I don't like to do much afterwards. I like to, a lot of times if there's a hot tub available, I like to go there and just chill. It just feels like it recuperates me.
Yeah.
And another thing I like to do in the mornings before, say it's after day 1, I'll maybe go in the hot tub at night. Then in the morning, take a shower to kind of freshen up. And I like to morning shower to that way I can freshen up and feel really ready for the day and have my body feeling 100%. So that's one thing. Another thing would be stretching. I really like to stretch. I think that stretching, even if you are sore, it can really make your body feel not as sore. It makes you feel ready just to even practice, even instead of going out there cold and practicing. Stretching is really awesome. It makes the body feel great. Even if you are a little bit sore, it can help with that. A lot of stretches I use are actually available from Disc Golf Strong. That guy's amazing. He does great work, and I'm really thankful that he's actually helped me out. He's such a good resource to have. He's worked with NHL teams. He knows his stuff. He's worked with the top of the NHL players, and he's translating it into disc golf now, which is awesome. So if you have any questions about that, any warm up ideas, he's great. He's showed me a lot of stuff, and I do that. I use a lot of his exercise that he showed me to warm up before I practice.
Yeah, Seth is a good guy. Definitely. We talk about his Disc Golf Strong stuff a lot. A thought occurred to me, Robert, is that, disc golf is a individual sport.
Right.
Right. Whereas coming from you playing soccer is a team sport where you have a coach.
Right.
And in my mind, I'm thinking the coach forces you to do the stretching. He forces you to do these preparation and conditioning type stuff. Whereas in disc golf, there's really no coach that forces you to do that once you turn pro. I guess speak on that and how, all that, maybe is people need to incorporate more of that into their game.
Sure. Well, I think it all really just comes down to discipline. Like you can, if you get to the end of a round, you need to treat it as if you've just played a soccer game or a basketball game or something like that, because you've used your muscles in such a strenuous way that they really need to be loosened back up and need to be relaxed after that, because otherwise, like you said, Ricky, you'll be really tight and really sore the next day. And so the importance of stretching before and after is, I don't think it can be overemphasized how important it is to do that, so that you feel better, but also for the longevity, like for your longevity in the sport. I know that coming from soccer, I'm accustomed to stretching before and after, but I know if I forget or just don't think about it after a round, I feel it the next day. And so if you're not already doing that, get on it. It really is important to allow you to play disc golf for longer and to allow your form to be what it needs to be. Because when you're sore or if you're injured, you start making compensations. Like, pardon me, I've got something caught in my throat. I don't know what it is.
Jimmy John's.
It's probably Jimmy
Something
John's.
to do with that.
What happened to the other half of that sandwich? I think it's stuck in your throat.
Yeah, it's back there somewhere. When I came back from knee surgery, I started making some compensations in my form, and those are. It's just so hard to break once you've started that habit. So if you are always stretching and always making sure that you're staying on top of that, then you won't be as prone to change your form or try to compensate for little struggles. Something interesting that Seth and I talked about was that he noticed that when people first start out playing disc golf, they're thinking, "Oh, I'm doing something more healthy. I'm getting out. I'm walking. I'm outside. I'm not playing video games. I'm in the fresh air. I'm walking, 10,000 steps in one day." Mm-hmm. And then they come to, somebody like Seth, or they post on Facebook, "Hey, I've just discovered disc golf. I love it. I've been playing every day. But I noticed that after a month, my shoulder is all out of whack." Well, that's because it's playing every day and you're out there
as hard as you can.
Yeah, right. It's an intense athletic activity, even if it's just for a second or two at a time.
Right.
Like you are putting a lot of muscles together pretty intensely all at once.
Yeah. So, all right, let's move on to the next one. This one's from Mike. Just watched some Memorial Championship coverage and noticed top players opting to tee from the natural area next to the concrete tee pad. What factors might inform a player's decision to choose a natural tee over concrete, and how common is it for tournaments to offer the natural tee option?
Yeah, so I think the natural tee option that's a good question. As far as a player's standpoint, I think a lot of our thought process is going into the surface itself. So we're thinking if there's a cement is pretty old and run down and it's pretty flat, it's slippery, as you guys all know, even when it's not wet. A flat cement tee pad like at Vista, Del Camino, and even Fountain Hills when they get wet. I guess Fountain Hills, there was a couple holes you could do it from the tee off from the grass, but Vista, they actually had like a couple extra feet on each side, and you could actually tee from there. And players felt more comfortable because it was a lot more grippy surface as opposed to the cement that was really flat, run down, old, whether it's, it's just a lot more comfortable and you feel more confident. And that's what you want when you're teeing off. That's the last thing you want to think about is slipping. And so if you're throwing a shot and you want to feel 100% committed and confident, and if the surface is dependent on that, and I think that teeing off from grass or dirt, whatever it may be on the side that they give you the option for, gives you that confidence that you're not going to slip, as opposed to teeing on the cement tee pad that could be slick.
Excellent. Next one is from Evan. Recently, I've gotten my 11-year-old brother into disc golf. I handed him a bio trespass at the park, and he threw it on forehand and loved it. Obviously, the trespass isn't an ideal choice for a beginner, but right now I've got him a beat-in regular truth and a well-beaten-in opto caltrop. It's all I have available to start. What from Trilogy's lineup do you guys recommend for him?
If he's just starting out in disc golf and he really liked the trespass for a forehand, it's likely that, he's starting it over on an Anheuser, just kind of forcing it over, because that's more of a natural motion. If you've played like baseball or tennis or something like that, you're used to coming over the top of it a little bit more. So you'd want to start him out with probably a fairway driver that would be kind of neutral so that he can learn form a little bit. A couple of good options for that would be like a Dynamic Discs Convict or a Latitude 64 Explorer. Those are great discs to, if you are already ingrained in that kind of worked over form, they're going to help you with some flights there. If you really want to learn good forehand and backhand form, then I would suggest something even more neutral than those, or slightly even more understable. So like a Witness would be a great option from Dynamic Discs. A Maul would actually be a really good option from Latitude 64, because those are going to kind of show your form flaws. If you're starting them torqued and they're kind of wobbling out of your hand, they're not going to get the intended flight. You have to be smooth with those in order for them to do what they're supposed to do. Any suggestions other than those?
Yeah, I mean, that you hit on most of them, so there's no reason for me to. Yeah, I mean, like he said, it when you're throwing those discs, what it does is, like he said, it intensifies the miss. So if you're slightly coming over the top, those ones are going to really go left or really go right if you're not committing enough. So,
what would you say, Ricky, based on your experience or guess the way you look at it? Do you think? I mean, I see a lot of players that start out and they grab these high speed drivers that are really overstable, and they are changing their angle or changing their throw to make the disc work for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a problem, I would say, in disc golf, is because you want to be cool. You want to be like your friend that's been playing for 3-4 years that has way higher arm speed than you. But what it does is it really manipulates your form throughout your whole disc golf career if you decide to stick with it. If you're playing with your buddy that played for 4 years and you're just playing for a month, you want to try and be like him because you see how good he is. But you have to adapt, just like any sport. You're not going to go be a professional soccer player after playing for 6 months.
Right.
So the form is what translates over and stays with you. And people don't realize that. They want to be good right away, and they don't realize that the form sticks with you. It's a lot harder to break form, as you guys know, that you've developed bad form throughout, say 6 months, a year, however long it is. So starting with this, like Robert said, the Explorer on a sidearm, or Convict, or whatever the disc is when you're a beginner, you really develop smooth form to be able to throw that disc. And then a lot of other discs from there you can manipulate them and throw them a lot easier with better form.
Gotcha. Good stuff. All right. Evan asks, one aspect of my game that I think I've been thinking about lately is jump putting. I've found that it's kind of difficult to control the disc out of my hand when jump putting. Is it better for amateur players to put more spin on longer putts, or is there good form for jump putts?
I would think there's good form for any putt, but it's not always the same for everybody, right? Because if you look at somebody like Ricky, doesn't jump putt a whole lot. He stands still for the most part, but like on kind of like a spinny type, approach jump putt, his jump putt looks a lot different than somebody like like a Ulibarri, who's more of a step, kind of a step putter. I do think there's good form to it. The most important thing on a jump putt to remember is that you want the end of the putt to look exactly like your normal putt, as long as your normal putt isn't a super up and down, like a really straight arm type putt. If you're trying to get there, you want that to just kind of be a natural extension of your putt. So a good way to practice that is to putt from 30 and feel how your putt normally is, and then back up to 35, and then follow through so much that you have to step forward to catch yourself. I think that's the best way to learn an effective jump putt. I don't think it necessarily gives you more spin, but you do have just a little bit more momentum that helps you get the putter to the basket a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm gonna kind of hit on that point a little bit more. Like Robert said, he was talking about going back and then going forward and pushing your weight forward and kind of almost stepping forward. And it's more of like a jump putt, I would say, and this is just my interpretation of it. So a jump putt, for some people, they actually jump their front. If you're right-handed putting, they jump their front right foot forward past the mini. And some people use their left foot and use the momentum coming from their left foot and put their left foot past the mini after they're putting. So for me, I'm more of a left foot step putter, or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. So if I'm putting from long distance, and my jump putting distance is usually outside of 60, 70 feet.
Silly.
So inside of there,
it's good.
Right. But so I'm step putting with my left foot. So I'm putting, and then I'm coming through with my left foot as I'm pushing the weight and momentum from my left foot. That's what's making my left foot step past my mini after I release the putt. So and I think there's a difference between putting and jumping with your right foot and your left foot. And Robert was hitting on a good point to where a lot of people, the timing is also a big issue with jump putts.
Yeah.
The timing has to be so perfect, and you have to dial it in so perfectly to get a consistent jump putt. And that's why you see a lot of people, sometimes they're shooting it way over the basket, or they're way under the basket because their timing is jumping it too early, too late. And so there's way less room for error as opposed to a step putt or a regular putt, standstill putt. But there's sometimes where it's such a far putt, you need all the momentum that you can possibly get. So you have to push that weight, and you have to almost step past your mini after the putt to get that extra distance. So I think there's a place and a spot for a jump putt, and it's just about putting in general. It's hard to put a percentage on it, but I would say about 60-70% timing, and that just explains a jump putt also. Jump putt is a lot about timing, and when you miss, it's all a result of your timing. If it's too early, it's going to go too low. If it's too late, it's going to go high, vice versa. And so that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah,
gotcha. All right, next one is from Matt in the Hat.
Oh, what's up, Matt?
Not Matt in the shirt.
No, it's like Cat in the Hat, dude. Come on, dude. Come on, dude. Dr. Seuss.
I know. What up, y'all? Matt from Denver here. Are you from Denver or are you in a hat? Which is it? 2 questions for you. I mostly carry Innova, and I'm wanting to diversify my bag. I'm a fiend for Star Plastic and was wondering if you have something comparable.
Our Fusion plastic and Goldline plastic are, I'd say, pretty comparable. No plastic across companies, unless it's made by the same manufacturer, is going to feel exactly like another company's plastic. But I'd say our closest comparison to Star Plastic is Fusion Plastic or Gold Line or Tournament Plastic.
Yeah, I think he hit that right on the head. I like the Fusion. I like the Gold Line, and I think that actually the way they break in is what I like the most about them. And that's what I judge a disc about, because, you know, obviously when you first get a disc, it flies great. But as a top player, you want to get a disc that's going to slowly break into what you want it to be, and what, you know, you want a disc preferably in your bag for a year, right. 2 or 3 years. And for you to be able to do that, you need a consistent break in. You don't want a severe, you know, disc that throw once and then it breaks in and it flies totally different 2 throws later. So I think a lot of the Gold Line and Fusion stuff are starting. They're, you know, when we first came out, it was a little touchy, but now that we're starting to really get the plastics dialed in to where it's you're really consistent and they're breaking in really nicely. And that's what I like the most about the top plastic that we have available right now.
Yeah. And for me, and maybe it's different for you, and I'm curious about this, but I almost like it a little bit more when a disc is like just slightly more overstable than I want it to be right out of the box, because I know it's not going to stay that way forever. It's going to work its way into something that I really, really like, just with a few throws, because a brand new disc flies the same for a little bit, but like that first little break in, that's the one that lasts longer than those first few throws. Is that how it is for you? Like, you'd rather it be just like slightly more overstable if you want it for that?
Yeah, exactly. And that way you really can gauge how much you break it in based on how much you throw it. If you want to break in a disc, you throw it a lot in a practice round to break it in. And so you can control it a lot more if you have a disc that's slightly overstable, like you're saying. So I agree.
Something close to that, when Peter McBride, when we were giving out our prototypes at Waco, Peter McBride grabbed his prototypes, and I was filming, and I was asking him questions, and I said, I said, what are you looking for? Heavier weights or whatever? And he said, well, I tend to go medium to heavier weights. And I said, why? And his reason was it was the break-in period.
Yeah. He
thinks when, you get a little heavier and then it breaks in, he feels like that, if you lose any of that weight, then you're about in the sweet spot. So I thought that was interesting as well.
Yeah.
Now, part 2 of Matt's question in the hat is, one of my local courses has small 2 feet diameter concrete curbs encompassing the baskets. Okay. And I was wondering why they do this. Although they look nice, whenever I'm trying to make up shots, I find myself coming up short because I don't want to damage my discs. I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah. So I've actually played on a few baskets like that, and I guess a lot of times I'm sliding my up shots and not trying to air them there, and just kind of do a drop shot. Sometimes obviously there's different ways to throw up shots, but when I'm playing courses that have barriers or something like that, I'm throwing slide shots as opposed to elevator shots, dropping the up shot on the basket. And which, if you land on the cement, it's obviously going to chunk your disc or make it all gnarled up. So yeah, it's a tough scenario. That's a tough one, but I would say, if I was playing your course, it sounds like I would throw a lot more
just
slide shots, play it 10, 20, 30 short, however hard you want to throw it, and just kind of slide it in. And even if you hit the barrier a little bit, as long as you're not hitting it, with the driver speed,
on the fly.
Right. Yeah,
I would say, and I'm not sure why, and maybe we're thinking of different things, but if I'm thinking of what I think you're trying to describe, Matt, maybe they're just trying to put off erosion as much as possible and make sure that the area around the basket stays the same for as long as possible, but who knows?
All right, cool. We're going to take a real quick break. When we come back, we're going to learn a little bit more about Ricky Wysocki.
Ooh.
All right, we are back, and again, we have guests on here, Ricky Wysocki. And I wanted to ask Ricky a couple questions, actually, that maybe isn't quite disc golf related, just to kind of get to know Ricky a little bit more. Tell us something that, and not disc golf related, and it can be anything, but tell us something that you are obsessed with right now.
Great question. So I've had an infatuation with golf. I really like golf. I watch it a lot. I go to tournaments. I enjoy, even sometimes when I'm stressed or something, I'll just go to a putting green and just putt or chip. I just like the camaraderie of golf, the tournaments. I like the tournament scene, and so I've just really liked getting a good group foursome, going out and playing ball golf, And I just enjoy it. I don't play it that much, but I appreciate watching it, and I appreciate when I do go out. I really just enjoy it. It's one hobby that I really like. I've really been, following it a lot. And
is there a particular player that you're following pretty closely?
Yeah, I've always been a Jason Day fan, and now that Tiger's back, it's a great to watch. I mean, he's fun to watch. The one thing I am frustrated about though is when other players are winning the tournament and they're giving more coverage to Tiger. It's like, that's not right. I don't think.
Yeah.
So they're you don't even know who. Sometimes you're watching a tournament and they're just showcasing Tiger, but then the lead group or the final pairing is actually, not being showcased, and you don't really they don't show, you really don't know who won.
Yeah.
You just know that Tiger got second or Tiger got 10th or whatever place he got. You don't know who actually won the tournament or how they won. So I think that's almost frustrating as a viewer.
I got you.
I'll agree with that too. Yeah. It's golf is so fun for me to watch because I've played it a few times, 10, 15. And I'm obviously not great at it, but it gives you so much more respect for them because of how easy they make it look, because you now know how difficult it is. And for their mental games too, because that's one thing that translates directly to disc golf is the mental side of golf. And that's like, that's how you score. That's how you win, is being good mentally. And so watching golf, that's the way. I agree.
No, I really like it. And yeah, I'll let you go, Bobby.
So do you have game apps on your iPhone?
Game apps? I'm not much of a gamer. I've been watching people play this Fortnite game.
Oh yeah,
but I haven't played it much.
So you don't have any game apps on your phone though, right?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm more of
what's an app that you reach for? You're checking a lot.
Spotify. I'm a music guy. I like Spotify. I'm into March Madness right now. I was until my bracket got completely busted. But.
Dude, I had Arizona winning. Not Arizona, Virginia winning it all.
Okay.
So first game out. Okay, later.
See ya. It was funny. Yeah, I saw someone on Twitter. They just put their bracket in a shredder, and then first day. Yeah, and that's kind of how I was. I literally. I think I deleted all my apps. I was like, this is annoying. I don't want to see a bunch of red X marks on my bracket. This isn't that fun. So, but no, I like watching it. I think that it's fun to see these schools that. Like Loyola Chicago. Yeah. They're fun to watch. I mean, it's just the whole environment. It's such a small school, so they're showing jumbotrons of all the students at the student center just cheering on their team, and so I just like the the team atmosphere, and I like the one and done situation. It's just a lot of pressure, a lot of build up, and like as you see right now, it's anyone's game
as of now.
Yep.
Of course, when I put this out, it will be before Saturday, but this Saturday's game is KU and I can't remember who they said, but I know
it's not Nova. It's the other.
I can't remember.
Did Purdue win?
I don't remember.
I don't know. But a lot of people around here obviously are very excited to have KU going on. So, all right, well, let's get back to the questions. We'll ask you a few questions after the next break we do. This one's from Steven. What's up, guys? How picky are you about putter weights? If I putt with 175 grams, would you typically get putters? Wait. Okay, I understand what he's saying, but I don't think he worded it right. So if he gets 175 gram putters, but if he were to purchase something that were plus or minus 1 gram, would he really notice a difference?
I mean, I think that's, to answer the question, I don't think, not really. Yeah. I think it's more in people's heads. I mean, I think that there's a certain weight range that it starts making a difference. But I think when it's 1, 2 grams, 3 grams, it's not that big of a difference. It may be very slightly that the thrower can't even really notice it. It might, but I think when it's 5, 6, 7 grams, that's when it starts making a difference. And for me, the only reason I mainly throw max weight for putters, and that's one disc I really am strict about, is because you chunk your putters. Even when you're hitting the chains or whatever you're hitting, there's plastic that's chipping, and there's all kinds of stuff happening to your putter that's actually taken away from the weight. So if you get a 172 putter, it may be 170 in like a couple weeks or a month, because as you know, even when you're hitting chains and making putts, you're beating up your disc. You're hitting chains. So I think the putter is one thing that I'm kind of weird about, the weight being real close to max. I'm not, that has to be 175 or 174, but I try and get between 173 and 175 as close as possible, and that way it allows me to take these chunks and chips out of my putts sometimes when it happens.
And still have them feel like the other ones.
Exactly.
All right, we got another one from Steve. He says, I throw the escape about 280 feet, but when I try to get it further, I'm always turning it way over, even when thrown with a pretty drastic hyzer. Should I be able to throw it further, or do I need to find something faster?
I think if you're normally throwing the escape, particularly around 280 feet, and when you try to throw it a little bit farther, you're turning it over, what you're probably doing is just trying to throw it too hard. What you really need to do is smooth out your form a little bit more. And like you said, if it's on an extreme hyzer, I mean, I can throw an escape on an extreme hyzer and get it to stay flat because I can keep it pretty smooth, right? If you're trying to work it over too much, if you're trying to hit it too hard, a lot of times that messes with your angle of reach back to your angle of release to your angle of follow through. And when those don't match up very much, that's when discs start to wobble and turn out of your hand. And so what I would do is ensure that those angles are the same and then just work on making that smooth across the board, following through on the same angle that you reach back on and the same angle that you release the disc on. I think, because I've thrown an escape, I don't know, well over 400 feet, just putting it up high in the air and just letting it ride. And so it's definitely possible. I'm sure Ricky could throw it a million miles, but he uses, overstable stuff, so it's fine.
Next one's from Dane. I've thrown a 175 ultimate disc for decades. I'm playing more disc golf and less ultimate, but most of my discs are around 175. How would you adjust my weights to get more distance? I can throw my drivers around 330 feet right now.
What do you think?
Think a second. Let's see. So if you're throwing an ultimate disc, it sounds like ultimate discs are pretty understable. So he's probably got a pretty hyzer release just because that's his natural release. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And, there's a lot of players, favor an Annie release or a hyzer release. Obviously we're able to throw on command, whatever we want release wise, an angle, but a lot of people have a preference, and everyone's different. So, and for a player like him, he's going to want to have a natural hyzer flip release. So you may want a little lighter discs, and for certain shots, it's that's what you want. And like I said earlier, putters are the only thing that I throw max weight. So if I wanted a disc to hyzer flip, which is what his natural form is, I would get a lighter disc, maybe a 170, 168, 169, and you'll be able to achieve that flight a lot easier without trying to overpower it and mess up your angle of release or mess up the result of the disc flight that you want.
Right. I know that's kind of how I've heard Feldberg talk about his philosophy of discs and stabilities is he's got a natural hyzer release, not a super hyzer, but a slight hyzer. And he likes to get discs that work for that swing. So if he wants something to go straight, he'll throw something that's just neutral or even slightly understable so that he can throw it on hyzer and let it stand up to flat. So really, until you're wanting to rework your swing entirely and learn just straight pullback, flat hit, straight follow through. Until then, I say make the disc work for you and find something that's even a little bit more understable. That'll be easier to throw straight.
Gotcha. Next one is from Jay. Would it make sense to create a second open division that would also pay out in cash, but would be suited for the lower rated players? For instance, let's say this is, quote, MPO2 division that would be for anyone for a rating less than 960. This would help people make the jump from advanced to open while still being able to get paid in cash, and it would help to sustain people who would be willing to tour all the big events, but have a very minimal chance of cashing and making the trip worth it. Am I thinking of this wrong? But where would the extra money come from?
Right.
Well, I mean, just from the field.
From the field? Okay. Then I'm not thinking it right.
That's a hard one.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to let you go on this one.
Okay.
Then I'll go from that.
I like the thought because it gets more people involved in disc golf and kind of gives them a future in playing disc golf. I think the issue that you'd probably run into a little bit more is I think sandbagging would be a lot worse in that situation because now there's money on the line. It's not just discs and apparel. It's actual cash. So somebody might get to 959 and then just throw a tournament super hard so that their rating stays below that, whatever that threshold is, so that they can still get paid but not really move up very much. I think it's a good thought. I think the practicality of it is probably really hard to enforce. So that's where I come in on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, that they're, I don't know if that would ever, I don't think that will ever happen just because there's so many players nowadays. And obviously there's always going to be those players that are right between advanced and professional. That's, it's sometimes hard to get past the barrier and hard to, in really a lot of different sports you can, but I think that it would, like Robert said, it would just create a whole nother problem that would that would still be a problem. So you would be fixing one problem and creating a different problem. So I don't like the idea, and I think that it would, in the grand scheme, I think that that's the nature of the beast, is there's going to always be those players, and it's a tough situation. There's no answer to that helps everyone out.
All right. And you just kind of have to take your knocks. If you're at the top of advanced, you can stay in advanced as long as you want to. Now, people will call you bagger, and they're probably right. But at the end of the day, like, if you want to get better, make the jump, take your hits. Like, you're not going to cash for a few events or maybe a lot of events, but you are going to become a better golfer if you're in kind of that range and you play open, because you're going to see people playing the course the way that it can be played. You can see what the potential of that course is, instead of just making a bunch of the same mistakes and still coming away first, second, or third. Yeah, I think just move up, take your knocks, and once you start cashing, you'll get better.
Excellent. Next one is from Anonymous.
Perfect.
Hey guys, I've been working on putting in a 9-hole disc golf course at my high school for the past couple of months. I was just wondering if there's any way I could receive some sort of assistance or funds from DD, as I am unsure of whether or not the whole course can be funded by the school. Any help is appreciated. Anonymous, I wish you would have put a real email address or real name or something, because I would have emailed you to let you know. Hopefully you'll hear this, because this was back in February. Go to dynamicdisc.com/sponsorship, and there's a place for DD player sponsorship, and there's a place for event sponsorship. I would select the event sponsorship, and then maybe reach out to Derek through that email address or through that form, and maybe he can help you. Or you can go to coursesales@dynamicdisc.com, email that, and maybe there's something they could do. No guarantees, but
and it's not very likely.
Conversation.
Yeah, it's not very likely that we just say, "Hey, here's the rest of the money."
Right.
But they might have some ideas for how you could raise some more money.
Correct.
Yeah.
Next one is from Dawn. I feel like I'm getting too much hyzer on my long distance putts, so much that by the time the disc hits the change, if it does, it is likely to knife through. I don't have this issue under 25 feet from the basket, but after that, this seems to decrease the likelihood of me making a putt drastically. I putt with Wardens. Should I try Deputy or work on my form?
Great question. I love Wardens.
I like Deputies. So there.
Okay. Well, next question.
Yeah, right.
So, if it was me, I would work on your form just a little bit, and here's why. Putting forms, like we said, are different from person to person. Ricky's form looks different than my form, looks different than Bobby's form, looks different than Danny's form. They can all be effective. Ricky's is, I would argue, probably slightly more effective than ours, but that's neither here nor there. But one thing that I do know is when you're hitting the basket, the closer the putter is to flat, in general, the better. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's just, you don't have to be a scientist to figure that out. If the pole is straight up and down and the chains are kind of not quite straight up and down. What?
So if I was a scientist, would I understand more?
Yeah, you definitely understand
a rocket scientist.
Yeah, a rocket scientist.
even more than you.
They work on baskets. I don't know if you guys heard about that. But the chains are mostly up and down a little bit with a little angle to them. A putter that hits flat is going to catch a lot more friction, catch a lot more chains when it hits the basket, as opposed to a putter that's mashing the angle at which the chains hang. Right. So you have less of a chance to hit chains if it's on that super hyzer angle than you do if the putter is a little bit flatter. Yeah. So once you get out past that 25-foot range, and you're having putters kind of spike into the basket, what I would do is maybe just start the putter at a different angle. If you're already starting it on hyzer, try and start it a little bit flatter. This is something that I work on a lot, especially in the wind, because your putters can just get tossed around if you have angle on them. Work on getting that putter just a little bit flatter so you have a chance to catch more chains and then to not get pushed around by the wind as much. Is that what you'd say as well?
Yeah. Of course, there's always different times where you need different styles of putts, around trees in the wind.
Sure.
But yeah, like he was saying also, to expand on that, is your angle is going to be intensified by the farther you get away from the basket. If you putt slight hyzer and you're 50 feet away, your slight hyzer is going to turn into a spike hyzer by the time it gets to the basket. So if I'm putting with just a touch of hyzer from 25, 30 feet, it's going to enter the basket probably just at a slight hyzer because it doesn't have that far to travel. So, I'm changing my angle of release a little bit as the farther I go away, but knowing that if I aim at the same spot and change my angle just a little bit, I can aim at the same spot because I'm changing the angle to flat as opposed to a slight hyzer. If I'm from 30 feet and I go to 40 feet, I'm going to just put a little bit flatter and I can have the same aiming point, just touch of different release. So you just got to understand that when you're the farther you go back, like Robert said, your angle is going to be intensified by the time it gets to the basket. So just try and mess with different angles the farther you get away. And it doesn't have to be a severe, but just a fraction. If you go back 5 feet, just do a little bit more of an angle and a little bit more. And that way you'll get the muscle memory dialed in to where you don't even have to think about it, but you'll just be like, all right, I'm going to have it a little bit flatter because I'm 50 or 60 feet away and I don't want to enter the basket with a spike hyzer. I want to end with just a touch of hyzer, which is the natural right-handed putt.
Nice.
Hello, this is from HB Hannibal.
Hannibal.
Hello, Disc Golf Fans, man. I am 42, almost 43, 4 years old, rec player who started in 2016. I'm not good at all, but I'm addicted to competition. I know I will never be young again, so Ricky, Eagle, and Paul have nothing to worry about. Well, there you go, Ricky.
All right.
Rest
I know you're shaking
easy.
in your boots.
Rest easy.
Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah, but I do always want to do my best. I, however, love events and am good at organizing and have 4 on the books this year and thinking of a 5th, running a trilogy challenge.
Nice.
HB, I suggest you do that. What are some of the more creative formats you have heard people using at these?
At trilogy challenges?
Yeah, what's a good format?
Huh. I mean, it's entirely up to you. I like having just the standard format because that doesn't discourage anybody from participating. Because say if you do like random doubles, all right, well, somebody might not show up because they know there's going to be a bunch of players who aren't as good as them. So they're like, I don't want to get paired with one of them, so they don't show up. If you do bring your own partner doubles, cool. People can come with whoever they want to, but some people might see, like, say out of the blue, Ricky and Eric McCabe sign up for a trilogy challenge and they're doubles partners. Like, I mean, I'm probably not going to play that event. I mean, I would like to go watch and be like, that was cool. But I don't really want to compete with them. So for something like a trilogy challenge where you're all testing new discs, I really just like a standard format, just stroke play, randomly drawn cards. That's what I would say.
I'm going to chime in on the competitive side.
Let's go.
So for me, when I look at it, I see a lot of older players, younger players, doesn't matter the age. And I always kind of joke with people. I'm like, yeah, there's always a rookie year, and whether you're 40, 50, there's always something to play for. And that's the cool part about disc golf is, even if you're 39 turning 40 or in your 30s, you have something to look forward to. And when you're turning Masters, when you turn 40 or 39, whatever the cutoff is for Masters, that would be your rookie season for Masters.
Yeah.
And Grandmasters would be 50. So there's always something to look for. And I think that's the great part about competitive disc golf is someone fits in everywhere. And if you're competitive, there's a division for you, and it's up to you. As we talked about earlier, it's an individual sport. So it's completely up to you whether you want to compete at a high level within your age group.
Gotcha. Awesome. All right, we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we'll have a couple more questions to get to know Ricky Wysocki a little more.
I thought you were going to say me.
Never. All right, we are back, and we have Ricky Wysocki here. We got a couple questions. We want to get to know you a little bit more, Ricky. What does practice look like for you when you are practicing disc golf? What are you doing?
I'm doing a lot, and I'm doing a lot of different things. When I first get to the course and I'm practicing for a tournament, I'm usually showing up 3 to 4 days ahead of time. I'll step up to the practice basket and putt for 10, 15 minutes, just get my putt dialed in. Then I'll go to the first hole. And for me, I like to develop a lot of muscle memory when I'm playing, because that's where you build confidence in a tournament. And a lot of players, that's their problem when they're trying to they play great in practice and casual rounds, but they don't feel great in tournaments and I think one way to solve that problem is to practice a lot. And really, the more you practice, the more you see what you're doing on certain holes and what you need to adjust. And so the more, like, say you throw one shot and it goes off left of the basket, then you can say, all right, I'm going to make a tweak here and throw it, a little bit right and play the slight hyzer that I played on the last shot that I didn't compensate for on the last shot. So those are little things that really make a big difference, and really in your mind is what makes the biggest difference when you get into a tournament. If you've thrown the shot 12 times, you know what your natural tendency is to do on that hole. and you can play that instead of just going up to, playing maybe 1 or 2 practice rounds and saying, all right, I could go left, I could go right. You're like, all right, I've thrown the shot 10 times because I've played 3 practice rounds and thrown 3 drives each time. So that's 9 shots on this hole. So I've got a good distance control gauge. I've got a good aiming point gauge. And so all those different variables allow you to feel comfortable by the time you step up to that hole in the tournament. So I'm doing that on every hole. I'm doing a lot of up shots from different distances where I think I'm going to land. I might take a up shot from 120 feet from the basket where I think my drive's going to land, say on a par 4. And then if, say I have a bad drive, I might land 180, 200 feet and have a trickier shot, trickier angle. I'll practice that. So I'm ready for pretty much any scenario in a tournament. And I think that's why I feel comfortable and I feel like I have a good step above on a lot of people mentally and confidence wise when it comes to a tournament.
Awesome. What's something that, and maybe this doesn't apply to you, but what's something that you know that you need to practice in your disc golf game, but you don't like to practice it?
That's a great question. So for me, I'm known as a putter. So just like a lot of different people do, I have tendencies where I want to go to the practice basket and just make putts because it's fun to succeed, right?
Right.
We all like to make putts. And say you're a good driver, you want to go to your favorite course and throw a bunch of drives because you're going to park a lot of holes, but you might step up and doink a lot of putts.
Right.
So for me, I have that similar thing where I want to practice what I'm good at, but I know that I shouldn't. I know that I should go. I'm not that I'm terrible at driving. I have a lot of confidence, and I feel like I'm a great driver. But if there's one part of my game, that's what I need to practice the most. But as do a lot of players, I don't practice it as much as I should. And there's certain shots that I need to practice that I don't because I may not feel as confident and I may not feel like I want to do that. But so driving, I would say certain like fairway driver shots. That's one shot that and of course I can throw it, but for me, I want to be more consistent at it.
Right.
And so I need to practice, certain angles, I'd say like 350 foot dead straight tunnel shots with this low ceiling. That's my tricky spot right now. And I think that I need to just go to certain holes and go to, a field and just do that a lot to be able to, consistently do that. And there's ways I manipulate my game to actually avoid that. Like I can throw a sidearm, I can throw a roller. So sometimes I'll do that if I'm not feeling really confident. But that's one thing that I think that as I do the same as a lot of players.
I gotcha. Okay, so let's say one more question. The next superhero movie is coming out. And it's starring Ricky Wysocki.
Oh, dang.
What? And it doesn't have to be one that it already exists. You don't have to pick like a flying, whatever. What superpower would you want Ricky Wysocki to have?
Oh, that's a good one. Let's see here. I like Iron Man. He can fly around and basically just go wherever. I'm a traveler, so I like traveling. I mean, just to be able to fly around and travel everywhere instead of having to be in a van or a vehicle, that'd be amazing. Just fly around to Japan or Australia and just wherever. It'd be so cool. No claustrophobic action going on there. You got the whole world to fly through.
I think my superpower would be eat as many torchy tacos as I could without gaining any weight.
Or costing any money. That place is expensive.
I'll just second that one. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, that would be my superpower.
Or a money tree.
How would it save the world? I don't care.
Yeah, this isn't about the world. This is about me. God, I don't know what mine would be. Like, flying is number one. I would like to do that more than anything else. But if that's a given, and I had to choose something else, man, I don't know. I think teleportation would be pretty sweet.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Just
what would be the first place you would teleport to?
Oh crap!
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Probably go see my parents. Say what's up, guys. I teleported
That's
here.
Boring.
But I mean, I have the power of teleportation. I can do it anytime I want, anywhere I want. So
where do they
you
live?
can only teleport to 2 places.
What?
Go.
Why? This is a dumb
That's the
game.
superpower.
Okay, well then my new ones. Does Shay get to teleport too?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're gonna go visit. The Swiss Alps.
Okay.
That's number one, and then we'll just keep it. We'll do low budget teleportation for the second one. We'll just go to the Grand Canyon.
Okay. What about you, Ricky?
I would go
2 places you could teleport to.
Thailand is number one, and let's see the second one. I would go to a tropical island, maybe like Fiji.
Really?
Fiji though.
Yep.
I'd go to Hawaii.
Okay.
I've never been.
You've never been to Hawaii? I've been there
I
twice.
haven't either, actually.
Oh, Hawaii's wonderful. And then I'd teleport to Torchy's Taco. Next question.
And we're moving on to the next question.
Next one is from Colin. Hey, guys, I have a question regarding when to throw a certain disc in a certain situation. I have 4 rock 3s for my mids, all ranging from very beat in to a brand new one in the bag. I have trouble figuring out which one to throw in wide open shots. I play a lot of woods courses, so my mid game is fine in the woods, but in the open, it seems a bit off. Do you have any advice to offer on that?
Yeah, throw a compass. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey.
I'm just kidding.
One opto compass.
Yeah.
All your shots are covered.
Yep.
Well, the thing is the rock 3s came out just recently. Have you even thrown one to see what it's
No, they've
I
been out
haven't.
for a minute.
Oh, have they?
I haven't
thought
thrown
those were
one.
newer ones.
But I can put some insight on that.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, as everyone has their slightly, everyone's different as far as their comfort zone when it comes to angle of release, and everyone's got their own angle of release that they prefer. So I think playing to your strong suit would answer your question the best. Is if you're say you're a great anhyzer thrower and the hole's wide open, and some people are throwing a hyzer, some people are throwing straight, some people are throwing sidearm. More than likely, they're going to throw the shot that they're comfortable with. So if Robert steps up to the hole and he's good at a hyzer and I'm good at a sidearm, well, it doesn't make a difference. There's multiple ways to skin a cat, but you might as well play what's ever confident and comfortable within your own game. And so I think that's what a lot of players make problems is they're trying to play a game that looks, it looked easy for him, so I got to be able to do it. Well, that's not how it works. If it's easy for you and it may not be easy for the guy that's third to tee off behind you or fourth, so and vice versa. So I think playing your comfort zone and playing your strong suits if it allows you to. Obviously, if it's a left to right hole and you don't have a sidearm and you're right-handed, you kind of have to throw a backhand. But so, there's just kind of stuff like that. I think that a lot of people, it seems pretty basic and obvious, but a lot of people don't do that. They allow players to manipulate what they do.
Gotcha. Next one is from Justin. Thank you all for the advice on this podcast. Thanks to some of your recent comments, I've just hit an average of about 400 feet on my drives when needed. Now on to my question. What is the best advice you could give an amateur playing their first tournament? Also, I've hit the cage twice in 2 separate shots, almost aces. One was a 150-foot hole and the other a 240-ish foot hole. Wow.
Sweet.
So he's got a question on aces, but let's go to the first question, which was
tournament tips.
Best advice for amateur playing their first tournament.
First tournament. All right. Here's my one bit of advice for your first tournament.
Oh, here we go.
You cannot prepare yourself for the nerves that you're going to feel on that tee box. Like, you can do whatever you want to, but the first time you step up to a tee box in a tournament, it's like, oh gosh, this is different. I've never done this before. So what you need to do more than anything is just focus on the task at hand. Don't think about anything else on the disc golf course. Don't think about where your score is. Once you throw your shot, don't worry about if it landed in a bad spot. If you're going to have a putt, it truly doesn't matter. Focus in, pick your target, throw at your target, and let your focus go. That will help you to kind of calm some of those nerves because your brain isn't just racing the whole time.
Yeah, I think a lot of times that's a great tip, and I think that playing my first tournament, that was definitely a concern. I think a lot of players get really anxious. They're nervous. Well, for people's first instinct when they're nervous is to go quick. I got to throw real quick before I get nervous. Well, it's actually the opposite. If you're nervous, calm down, let yourself take a second to breathe, relax, and so nerves they're a tough thing to handle, but you have to let it run its course. There's no way to be like, all right, nerves, turn off. It's impossible. Yeah. You have to embrace it and let the nerves run its natural course. You can't try and beat it by throwing real quick. You're gonna you didn't focus on the shot. You rushed it real quick, try and get throw before you got nervous on a certain shot. So I think playing and embracing the nerves that are going to come, because it's going to happen. It's a natural occurrence. It doesn't matter who you are. I still get them. Obviously you get more comfortable with the nerves that you have during events the more you play. So I think letting it run its natural course and not letting it affect you in a negative way, try and turn it into a positive. Like, oh, I'm nervous. That means I want to play well. I slow down, take deep breaths. And, I've had a lot of people, tell me certain things about, patience. That's number one thing is being patient. Like Robert said, you want to be anxious. Be like, oh, am I behind a tree? Do I have a putt? What about my fairway shot? Did I go behind a bush and can't throw a second shot or whatever the case may be? Just be comfortable and take it with a grain of salt. If you throw a bad shot, say, all right, it's going to happen. I got to recover. And so yeah, I think that playing with patience and not getting too anxious on shots is really my key advice.
Excellent. So he was talking about his aces. And so do you remember your first ace Robert, where were you?
Yep.
And how long had you been playing?
I had been playing for like a year and a half, just kind of for funsies with my buddies in college. We were playing in Abilene, Texas, where I went to college. And
What disc?
I'll get to it.
All right.
I'll get to it because it's an embarrassing ace. That's the problem. So we were playing. Me and my buddy, who were both we were okay. We were probably around that time. We were probably around intermediate level. We were playing with some guys who were kind of close to us, and then one of our roommates who wasn't very good, but thought he was really good. And he ran.
We all have those.
Yeah, he ran like 80 footers. He would just throw full power at the basket and be like, I'm so far past it. Well, yeah, because you freaking, anyways, okay. So we were playing doubles against their triples, and we were tied at 6 under going into hole 18. And the bad guy, he's not a bad guy, but he was not a very good player, just walked up and parked 18. I mean, under the basket. And we were like, oh, great. So I wasn't really great at the shot that was asked for on that hole, so I just threw a thumber with a star wraith and just let it go. And I was like, well, I hope that's close. And we heard chains at the time that it should have hit, but we couldn't really see the basket. And so I was like, oh, someone made a putt over there. And we walked up and my disc was in the basket. So doubles versus triples, we beat them 8 under to 7 under.
Walk off ace.
Walk off ace. It wasn't as cool as your Utah Open ace.
I can appreciate that.
But that was pretty sweet. And then honestly, I got a little bit after that. And once I moved to Austin, I got one in the entire time I lived in Austin, and I lived there for 5 years.
Wow.
So I went on a super drought once I moved. Yeah.
I've got one ace, and it was in Ohio. I think I was actually playing also doubles. It was a doubles event. It was a sanctioned doubles, Ohio State doubles, I think it was. That was my first ace. I threw a sidearm on a like 220 or 30 foot hole with a ESP zone. Nice. It was kind of around a corner. So that was my favorite disc at the time. So it was kind of fitting that I got my first ace with one of my favorite discs at the time. Nice. ESP zone sidearm.
You've only had one ace?
that was my first.
That's his only one.
Yeah, my only. Well, you said you started. I have one ace, and it was so.
I had one ace when I was playing.
That makes sense. Yeah. So I have I have no memories of an ace. So next question.
No aces just yet. Hey, but ace. If we go play Hammond several times,
you're probably gonna get one.
You could get one.
Yeah. I would hope so.
You could get it.
Next one is from Andrew. I have heard a discussion about marking discs again recently, and thought of a challenge to the thought Robert had about marking behind the disc.
I can't wait.
I didn't know you had a challenge there, or I didn't know you had a thought about it.
So what Dixon interviewed one of the guys from the PDJ on his podcast, and he and I were talking about it when we were going to an event or something. And the guy from the PDJ was saying that they would like to move, or maybe he was just speaking up about what he would like to do personally, but he would like to move to back marking the discs instead of front marking, like they do in golf.
Yeah.
So that instead of okay, you throw your drive, your disc is on the ground. What is your lie? Right. Well,
put the mini in front
right now it's behind the disc, but as soon as you put a mini down, now it's in the front of the disc, right? Yeah. So we actually change our lie based on
the mark.
Yeah, based on whether we mark it or not. So his argument is if you back mark, then it's the same mark. Whether you mark it or not, it's the back portion of the disc, and you would just put your mini on the back portion and then just lift the disc out from under it, so that the line didn't actually change.
That's interesting because I remember when I was walking with Paige at Waco, it was the hole 16, the long hole with the elevated basket. Yep. And she was just far enough away where she was close, but she was just far enough away to where she couldn't just reach and drop the disc in. She would have to kind of give it a toss.
Right. And
then she looked down and she asked Rebecca, "Can I borrow your marker?" Yeah. Your mini or whatever, because she put it down and that gave her another step. So she was right there because, it was, if you followed the whole Waco story, they were pretty close.
Yeah, and windy too.
And I thought that was interesting that she used that to her advantage, saying, I'm now much closer. Right. I definitely will drop it in and take no risk. So anyway, back to Andrew. He said, this is his challenge to Robert. If a disc is leaned up against a tree, marking the disc on the front at least gives you a place to set your foot behind the lie. Would it change? Okay, he says, would if changed to marking behind, so I'm not sure what he's trying to say.
Okay.
Obviously a typo. Change marking behind your disc and then bring into play the new rule about going back as far as needed to gain a safe lie.
It might. And I think the thing is, that going as far back to achieve a safe lie, I think that only applies to out of bounds shots. Could be so wrong here, but I'm pretty sure. All right, so here you go. I throw a disc, it lands leaning up against the tree, and the direction that I'm throwing is on the side that it's leaning on. And so I can't really get a foot behind the disc in front of the tree, right? So the rule is that I have to take my lie directly behind that solid object, but as close as I can while maintaining a safe spot, right? So it's not like I can then take it back as far as I want to. It's only just on the other side of that solid object. The rule for bringing it back as far as you want on the line of play is it only applies to out of bounds shots, as far as I know.
Makes sense.
I'm pretty sure I interpret the rules correctly. Danny is nodding as if I am, and he's smart. So
He is smart.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Let's see. Ryan K has a question. We'll do one more question. When building your bag, how do you make the choice to keep certain molds? I've been noticing I'm changing discs around a lot, and some of my go-tos have become too understable as I'm gaining more arm speed. How long did it take you to finalize your bag? What do you look for when you're exploring your options?
Is your bag finalized?
Yeah, a little bit. Not really. I mean, there's always discs coming in and out.
I was going to say, I wouldn't say mine is either.
Yeah.
Like you're always doing new things.
Yeah, and I think that the natural progression of your arm speed getting higher is most prevalent when you're, between, I'd say, 1 year to 2 years in playing is when you start actually really getting some arm speed. And then, I think, and obviously it's different from all players, but on average. And then I think, when from year 1 to maybe year 2 or 3 was when I had the most change in arm speed. Say, I'm throwing a, overstable or understable fairway driver. Then I'm, adapting to a slightly less understable than maybe a straight. So, I think that I was adapting between year 1 and year 3. I was I maybe changed 4 or 5 times based on my arm speed getting higher. And, then having to switch out, maybe not all my discs, because even if your arm speed got higher and you're throwing, say, a straight fairway driver, you can use it for a little bit more of an Anheuser flight. So even if you're changing your bag, you can still use certain discs for different shots if your arm speed's getting higher. You just have to maybe change certain discs and move them in different slots around. So I think and like Robert said, we're always, keeping, moving discs in and out based on certain shots, certain holes and courses. And so I think that year probably 3 to 4 is when I kind of figured out the base molds of my bag that I wanted to keep in. And then after that, it's just been slight tweaks.
Gotcha. That's what I would say too. Like, well, actually, if new discs come out, sometimes those make the bag too. Like for us, the Latitude 64 Explorer just came out. Fantastic disc.
Yep.
Fantastic. Like a great combination of speed and stability that we haven't really had up until this point. And so that went straight into my bag. So, and who knows with the getaway, as I tested a little bit more, maybe that'll get in there. Yeah. So as we come out with new discs, sometimes that changes too, but I'd say what we do have set in place is knowing what shots we need to cover with those discs. So making sure that I have overstable, pretty neutral to straight, and understable covered in each of those speed ranges. I'd say whatever discs it takes to do that, I definitely have that set in place.
Excellent. Danny sent me a message while we were talking, based going back to the question about the lie. If a large solid obstacle prevents the player from taking a legal stance behind the marker disc or from marking a disc above or below the playing surface, the player may mark a new lie immediately behind that obstacle on the line of play.
Nice.
PDGA 803.02B. And then 803.02D, a player may elect at any time to take optional relief by declaring their intention to the group. The lie may then be relocated by marking a new lie which is farther from the target and is on the line of play. 1 penalty throw is added to the player's score.
Put me in, coach.
So could I, if I don't like where my lie is, can I declare that I want my lie to be 10 feet from the basket?
You cannot.
Okay. It's not as long as I declare it?
No. Hey, I'm just going to put this by the basket. Give me a penalty stroke.
Wait, you
and
can't
I got a
do
3.
that. But I just declared it.
I declared it. I declare bankruptcy.
Yeah.
No, I didn't just say it. I declared it.
Yeah, I declared it. All right, guys. Well, Ricky, again, thanks for joining us. Now, if people want to follow you along as what you do, because I know you do a lot of posting on Instagram and stuff like that, what's your handle on Instagram?
SockyBomb13. That's my net username and hashtag SockyBomb.
Yeah.
SockyBomb13. Those are my go-tos. check me out. And I'm going to be around the factory here the next couple days, and the warehouse, I should say. Check me out, and we posted some interesting stuff.
And I know you also have what is you have a site where you actually sell discs, right?
Sakibomb.com.
Sakibomb.com. It rings to it.
Dude, it rhymes so nicely.
It does. I don't know.
Hey, and an in-store signing that we're going to be doing tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow. If I don't know, is this live or when are we posting this?
Actually, this will probably be out after the signing.
Okay.
So sorry about that.
If you're just not hearing about it, you missed it. You need to follow DD a little more closely. We posted stuff on all our stuff. So, yeah, it looks like you've got some discs, some shirts, some dry fit shirts and stuff out at sakibomb.com. So, even when you say that, you feel like you're like rapping. Sakibomb.com.
Yeah. It's like a jingle.
Yeah, I got some Enforcers, some Explorers, some Compass, Criminals, all kinds of stuff, goodies out there. So, good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Well, that's it. We will see you next week on Disc Golf Answer Man. Eric McCabe should be back, and we will be on a regularly scheduled episodes. Should I tell people? I watched a couple of live podcasts on Facebook, and I have an idea of trying, and we might try a live podcast next week. We'll have to wait and see.
Cool.
Muy interesante.
Yes, really interesting.
Nailed it. Nailed it. Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys.